It always feels really good to just jump right in and get your feet wet. So here are some examples from this lesson, and I invite you to repeat these right along with me. Él siente. Él siente. Yo puedo. Yo puedo. Sí se puede. Sí se puede. Usted pide ayuda. Usted pide ayuda. Muy bienvenidos a esta lección número 7, la cual se llama STEM Changers. En esta lección vamos a hablar de un principio parecido a la comida que a muchos no les gusta comer, pero deben comérsela. Welcome to lesson number 7, which is called STEM Changers. In this lesson, I'm going to teach you about a principle that is really, really important. It's similar to a type of food that a lot of us don't like to eat, but we should eat it. That's right, I'm talking about none other than vegetables. Vegetables are really healthy and useful for our bodies, but probably because of the way they taste, a lot of us don't like to eat a lot of vegetables. Well, with these stem changing verbs, they are really, really important to understand and to be able to use in Spanish. But they're kind of tricky, so they're harder to use, almost to the point where we don't like to use them, or we avoid them or steer clear of them. But it's my goal to help you get comfortable enough that you will enjoy using stem changers. The principle I'm going to teach you here is similar to the previous lesson on irregularly conjugated verbs when yo is the subject. In that lesson, you'll remember that there's a specific group of verbs that when yo is the subject, we conjugate them differently. They have an irregular conjugation compared to the typical conjugation charts that you're familiar with. Likewise, in this lesson on stem changers, these verbs have a slightly different application when you conjugate the verbs. Except in this case, it's not the conjugation that is irregular, it's the stem of the word. All right, I don't want to get into too much detail here because I'm really just introducing the concept and the lesson. So with that, I think we're ready to jump into lesson 7 on stem changers. Here's the learning outline for lesson 7. First, we'll start with some vocabulary, followed by an explanation of what is a stem changer and how to conjugate these stem changing verbs. And then we'll look at some common stem changers, followed by a short quiz and a speaking practice and some comprehension. Here's the vocabulary. Say these words along with me because it'll really help to start to train your muscles how to speak and articulate in Spanish. Yo siento. Yo siento. Yo siento. Lo siento. Lo siento. Lo siento. Contar. Contar. Not contar. Contar. Nope. Contar. Contar. Cuentas. 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 Servir. 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 Not servir. Servir. No. Servir. No. Servir. Not servir. Servir. Almost like S-E-D. Sed. And then V-I-D. Servir. Ella sirve. Ella sirve. Sierves. Piensan. Piensan. Los enfermos. Los enfermos. ejemplo, ejemplo. La clase, la clase, la clase. Bebidas, bebidas. Let's look at some phrases now. Lo siento por llegar tarde. Lo siento por llegar tarde. I'm sorry for arriving late. ¿Qué piensas tú? ¿Qué piensas tú? What do you think? Notice that in each of these phrases, the conjugated verb in red is the stem changing verb. Sí se puede. Sí se puede. Yes, you can. ¿Entiendes? ¿Entiendes? Do you understand? Isn't that cool that in Spanish you can say, do you understand, with a single word? That's pretty amazing. Vuelvo enseguida. Vuelvo enseguida. Vuelvo enseguida. I'll be back soon. Sigue adelante. Sigue adelante. Sigue adelante. Keep going. What's a stem changer? A stem changer is a type of verb. You may have already gathered that. The verb is conjugated normally. This means that the ending or the conjugation that you use is from the normal conjugation chart that we've seen before. Okay, so this is where this lesson is different than verbs that are irregularly conjugated when yo is the subject, the previous lesson. These verbs, these stem changing verbs, they have all of the normal conjugations from those conjugation charts, so you don't have to worry about any of that. So they are conjugated normally, but the stem of the word changes when you conjugate the verb. Okay, and we'll look at what that means, okay? Now, think about the Spanish subject chart. 8 of the 10 subjects will trigger this stem changing act that you need to do. Okay, so what do I mean by that? I mean that these subjects within the purple shape, they are the subjects that trigger the stem change. Okay? So you don't change the stem all the time with these verbs. You only change it when one of these 8 subjects is the subject. Okay? And now, I want to just mention one quick thing. Another name for stem changing verbs is boot verbs. Okay, so you may have heard this term boot verbs. Boot verbs comes from the shape of this purple shape here. Notice that it, to some degree, it resembles the shape of a boot, kind of. That's where the term boot verb comes from, is that the verbs, when paired with these 8 subjects, the 8 subjects that fall inside of the boot, these verbs become stem changers. Now, here is an example of a stem. Okay, sentir is our verb, and remember, when you conjugate it, you actually drop the IR ending, so you're left with the word sent, and then you're asked to add a conjugation. Now, this sent is the stem, okay? So, because sentir is a stem changer, it's this part of the word that we will change. Now, like I said earlier, we will also conjugate the verb according to the conjugation charts, but in addition to doing that, we have to modify slightly the stem of the verb. So that is essentially the principle that we're talking about here in this lesson. We're going to get into some detail in just a second. So here are a few examples. there are three main types of stem changers. Okay, so these verbs will fall into one of three buckets. This that we're looking at here is the first bucket. Okay, so you have verbs where the E changes to IE. This is the first type of stem changer. You'll have an E in the stem, and the E changes to IE when you conjugate that verb. You also have where the stem has the letter O, and the O, upon conjugation, needs to be changed to UE. And then finally, the third bucket is where you have E in the stem, and you change it to I as you conjugate the verb. Okay, this first example we're going to look at is where E changes to IE. Okay, and the verb is sentir, which means to feel. Now notice that some of these conjugated verbs here in the verb chart have a stem that has changed. The ones with this changed stem fit into this purple shape. Siento, sientes, siente, sienten. Okay, so those conjugated verbs are stem changers. And because sentimos and sentís don't fall within the boot, they are not stem changers. All right, this is pretty basic. Let's keep going. Another example. Okay, in this case, we are looking at the example of where an O in the stem changes to UE when it's conjugated. The verb here that we're going to look at is contar, which means to count. And of course, we only change the stem when the word or when the subject or the conjugated verb fits inside of the boot shape. Hence the name boot verb. Cuento, cuentas, cuenta, and cuentan. And notice, contamos and contáis, because they don't fall within the boot, they are not stem changers. And finally, here's the third bucket. It's when the stem has an E that changes to an I. So here we go. Seguir is the verb, which means to follow or to continue. Yo sigo, tú sigues, ella, él, usted sigue, ellos, ellas, ustedes siguen. Those are the boot verbs, or those are the stem changing verbs. Seguimos and seguís, because they don't fall within the boot, they are not boot verbs, they are not stem changers. So they retain the E from the unconjugated seguir. I hope that's clear. This is pretty basic. The harder part of this is to know which verbs are stem changers. So that's where we're going to go next. Here are the principal stem changers. There's probably a much larger list of these. I know there is. It could be twice this size or 3 times this size. I bet it's probably 3 or 4 times the size of this. But these are the principal stem changing verbs that you'll want to remember as a beginner Spanish student. Okay, so first, when E changes to IE, here are the verbs. Let's say them together. Pensar, pensar. So you would conjugate that into yo pienso, tú piensas, ella piensa, and ustedes piensan. But when vosotros or nosotros is the subject, you do not change the stem. Pensamos. Vosotros pensáis. Nosotros pensamos. Okay, next is querer. Yo quiero. Tú quieres. Ella, él quiere. Ustedes quieren. Okay, let's go to cerrar. Yo cierro. Servir. Ellos sirven. entender. Tú entiendes. Empezar. Él empieza. All right? Here is the second category or second bucket where the O changes to a UE. Poder. Él puede. But nosotros podemos. Okay, so with nosotros and vosotros, you do not change the stem. Dormir. Tú duermes. Ella duerme. Ellas duermen. Mostrar. To sleep or to show. Él muestra. Ella muestra. Ellos muestran. Volver. Yo vuelvo. Yo vuelvo. Encontrar. Ella encuentra. Ella encuentra. Finally, where E changes to I. Yo pido. Tú pides. Ella pide. Ellos piden. But nosotros pedimos and vosotros pedís. Decir. Tú dices. Ella dice. Seguir. Él sigue. Ellos siguen. Corregir. Yo corrijo. Tú corriges. Ella corrige. All right. So this is pretty basic. The principle itself is basic. Really, you just have to remember these three buckets, and then you have to do some sort of recall around this list of important stem changing verbs. Okay, like some of these verbs are really quite common, like querer. That's one of the most common verbs in Spanish. Poder, likewise, is an extremely common verb. So it is worth some of your time to pause the lesson and write some of these down and do some quick memorization so that you can have these in your mind as examples of where you change the stem. But I will just say memorization of a list of words only goes so far. You need to actually put those into practice and start speaking with them. ¿Siente usted por los enfermos? ¿Siente usted por los enfermos? Do you feel sorry for sick people? This is a great vocabulary word. Sentir means to feel, but it also means to feel for somebody. So if I say, ¿Siente usted por los enfermos? It's like, do you feel sorry, or do you kind of empathize and sympathize? Do you understand the plight of sick people and what they're going through? Sí, yo siento por los enfermos. Sí, yo siento por los enfermos. Yes, I feel sorry for sick people. ¿Sientes tú feliz por lograr tus metas? ¿Sientes tú feliz por lograr tus metas? Do you feel happy for achieving your goals? Now notice in this question, I'm actually giving you a lot to work with here. Yes, I am focusing on this specific principle of a stem changer verb, but I'm also giving you a really great vocabulary word. Lograr tus metas. That means achieve your goals. Lograr metas means achieving goals. Okay, so lograr is, of course, a verb infinitive, and metas is goals. That's a great vocabulary word to add to your list. Sí, yo siento feliz por lograr mis metas. Sí, yo siento feliz por lograr mis metas. Yes, I feel happy for achieving my goals. ¿Siente usted dolor en tu brazo? ¿Siente usted dolor en tu brazo? Do you feel pain in your arm? Again, another great vocabulary word. Dolor en tu brazo. Dolor means pain. En tu brazo. Brazo means arm, so pain in your arm. Sí, yo siento dolor en mi brazo. Sí, yo siento dolor en mi brazo. Yes, I feel pain in my arm. ¿Cuentan los niños con la maestra? ¿Cuentan los niños con la maestra? Do the children count with the teacher? Take some time to think about your answer. If you need to pause the lesson at any moment, feel free to do so to give yourself more time. It may also help to write down your response, just to look it over and think it through before you give it. Sí, los niños cuentan con la maestra. Sí, los niños cuentan con la maestra. Yes, the children count with the teacher. ¿Cuento yo los números en la página? ¿Cuento yo los números en la página? Do I count the numbers on the page? Sí, tú cuentas los números en la página. Sí, tú cuentas los números en la página. Yes, you count the numbers on the page. Notice in this response, notice the three written accents. Tú, números, and página. I won't go into this detail, but we will jump into a lesson very soon where we talk about written accents and how we place emphasis on these words. Tú, números, página. ¿Cuenta ella los números en la pantalla? ¿Cuenta ella los números en la pantalla? Does she count the numbers on the screen? Again, I'm giving you some really great vocabulary words, not just cuenta, but also números en la pantalla. The previous example was I gave you the word for page, página. Now I'm giving you the word for screen. And with all of our electronic devices today, pantalla is an extremely common and helpful vocab word. Sí, ella cuenta los números en la pantalla. Sí, ella cuenta los números en la pantalla. Yes, she counts the numbers on the screen. ¿Sigues tú el ejemplo de tu líder? ¿Sigues tú el ejemplo de tu líder? Now, without knowing what ejemplo or líder mean, you could probably guess what they mean, right? This is another reason why Spanish is such a great language to learn, is a lot of times there are words like this that just kind of look like or have familiarity to their translations into English. So, seguir means to follow. So, what do you think I'm asking here? I'm asking, do you follow the example of your leader? Notice, ejemplo looks like the word example, kind of, and líder looks like the word leader in English. Think about how you're going to respond and respond out loud in Spanish before I show you the answer. Sí, yo sigo el ejemplo de mi líder. Sí, yo sigo el ejemplo de mi líder. Yes, I follow the example of my leader. ¿Siguen ustedes la multitud? ¿Siguen ustedes la multitud? Do you all follow the crowd? Do you all follow the crowd? No, nosotros no seguimos la multitud. No, nosotros no seguimos la multitud. No, we don't follow the crowd. ¿Sirve usted las bebidas? ¿Sirve usted las bebidas? Do you serve the drinks? Sí, yo sirvo las bebidas. Sí, yo sirvo las bebidas. Yes, I serve the drinks. ¿Sirven ustedes las bebidas a los pasajeros? ¿Sirven ustedes las bebidas a los pasajeros? Do you all serve drinks to the passengers? Do you all serve drinks to the passengers? Sí, yo sirvo las bebidas a los pasajeros. Sí, yo sirvo las bebidas a los pasajeros. Yes, I serve drinks to the passengers. Here is the comprehension exercise. Go ahead and read through the passage on the left, and then I will show to you the translation into English on the right. Okay, are you ready? Have you read through this? Now let's look at how we would translate this into English so that you can start to identify how the language flows in Spanish. Yo siento mal cuando. Yo siento is I feel. Mal is badly. Okay, mal is a great vocabulary word. Yo siento mal, I feel badly. Cuando is when. Cuando mis amigas, when my friends, no muestran, don't show. So mostrar is to show. So cuando mis amigas no muestran, when they don't show sus sentimientos verdaderos, their true feelings. Sus is their, sentimientos is feelings, and verdaderos is true. No muestran sus sentimientos verdaderos. Ellas piensan, they think, que son fuertes. Que son fuertes. That, so que is that. Que son is they are. Fuertes is strong. Ellas piensan que son fuertes. They think that they are strong. But, so pero is but. Todas necesitamos, but we all. So todas is all or every. All necesitamos. We all need. Necesitamos is we need. Apoyo. Apoyo is support. Pero todas necesitamos apoyo. Y means and. Quiero. I want. Quiero. There's that word again, que. I want that. Okay, this is where there is not quite the same direct translation that you might be looking for. This is a good example of the Spanish subjunctive, and we will talk about this in a much later lesson, okay? We'll get there, just not now. So, quiero que pidan, I want them to ask. So, pidan is they ask. Pidan mi ayuda. So pidan is actually they ask for, and then mi is my, and ayuda is help.